Almost everything you have been told about coffee in the garden is wrong. And the most popular advice of all, dump your used ground straight onto the soil around your plants like a fertilizer, can actually harm the very plants you are trying to feed. I am going to tell you the real way coffee helps a garden, including one genuinely powerful thing it does that almost no one talks about. And I am going to tell you plainly the popular tricks that are myths so you do not waste your coffee and hurt your plants believing them. By the end, you will know exactly what to mix your coffee with, what to do with it, and what never to do. Let me be straight from the start, because the internet is drowning in confident nonsense about coffee grounds, and I will not add to it. The picture you have, that coffee grounds are rich, dark, miracle food you scatter thickly around your plants, is mostly false, and believing it has yellowed and stunted a great many gardens, including, I will admit, by the testimony of honest gardeners, gardens belonging to people who piled on more grounds, thinking the problem was too little. So I am going to give you the truth in two halves, as I always do. The real and working ways coffee genuinely helps, strongest first, and then the myths to drop. Honest and working beats popular and wrong every time. My people are the Samburu, in the dry north of Kenya. I will be honest, coffee grounds are not some ancient secret of my people. We are herders, not coffee gardeners. But Kenya grows some of the finest coffee on earth in its highlands. And the truth of what coffee does in the soil is the same truth I have shown you in everything else. That the real answer is usually quieter and more careful than the loud promise. And that understanding why a thing works tells you exactly how to use it and how not to. So let me give you the real science of it, plainly. The way a careful person would. Start with the single most powerful thing coffee does in a garden, the one that genuinely works and that hardly anyone tells you about. It kills slugs and snails, the soft, slimy pests that chew holes in your leaves and strip your seedlings overnight. And here is the part that surprises people. It is not the gritty grounds sprinkled around the plant that does it. The way the common advice says, that barrier of dry grounds is weak and unreliable. What truly works is the caffeine, in liquid form, and it works powerfully. Researchers tested a watered-down coffee solution, poured onto the soil, and found it drove out and killed essentially all the slugs in the treated ground. They cannot tolerate the caffeine. It poisons them. And a stronger solution killed almost all the snails too, giving better control than the usual shop-bought slug poison. That is a remarkable thing. Your leftover coffee, watered down, outperforming the chemical bait, against the pest that ruins more vegetable gardens than almost anything. Here is how you make it, and it is simple. You take strong brewed coffee, the actual liquid, not the grounds, and you mix it with water. For a soil drench, the thing you pour onto the ground where the slugs live and hide, mix about 2 parts strong coffee to 1 part water and pour it onto the soil around the plants the slugs are attacking and into the damp shady places they shelter. For spraying onto the leaves themselves to stop them being eaten, go much weaker, about 1 part coffee to 9 parts water, and mist it over the foliage. One honest caution the careful researcher gives: before you spray a whole plant, test it on a few leaves first and wait through a hot sunny day or two to make sure those particular leaves do not burn, because some tender plants object. But use this way: strong drench on the soil, weak spray on the leaves, tested first. Your coffee becomes a genuine weapon against the slug and the snail, for free, out of what you would have poured down the drain. A few honest details so it works and does no harm. Use plain coffee, not the sweetened, milky, flavored kind. Sugar and milk poured on your soil draw ants and pests and turn sour. So it is plain black coffee or plain grounds only. If your grounds come from flavored pods or syrupy blends, leave them out. For the additives are no friend to the life in your soil. And know this small irony. It is the caffeine that kills the slug, so ordinary caffeinated coffee is what you want for that job. The decaffeinated kind, with the caffeine taken out, is the weaker weapon against slugs, though it is still fine for the compost. Match the coffee to the task, caffeinated and strong for the slugs, any plain grounds for the compost heap. And know your enemy's habits, because timing makes the coffee far more deadly to them. Slugs and snails are creatures of the damp and the dark. They hide through the dry heat of the day, under leaves, under pots, in the cool shaded soil, and they come out to feed in the cool wet of the evening and the night and the early morning, and most of all after rain. So the time to strike is the evening, when they are emerging to feed, or just after a rain when they are out in numbers. A drench poured then onto the damp soil where they are active and into the shaded hiding places they shelter in by day catches far more of them than the same coffee poured onto dry ground at noon when they are tucked away. Pour it where it is damp and shaded and where you have seen the silvery slime trails, for those trails are their roads and lead you straight to where they travel. Strike them in their wet evening hour, not the dry midday, and the coffee does its work. Now the second real use, and this is the one that turns coffee grounds into a true gift for your soil, but only when you do it right, through compost. The grounds, the wet, leftover solids, are full of the things that feed the tiny life in healthy soil. They are rich in organic matter, far richer than ordinary soil, and they carry nitrogen and a scattering of other minerals. But, and this is the whole key, that goodness is locked up, and it is released properly only when the grounds are first broken down by composting. So you do not put the raw grounds straight on your beds, you put them in your compost pile. There, mixed with dry leaves and other scraps, they rot down over months into proper finished compost. And in that pile, they do something especially useful. They help the heap run hot. And a hot compost pile breaks down faster and kills off weed seeds and disease. Then that finished compost, the grounds now fully transformed, goes onto your garden as the rich, dark food it has finally become. There is one rule for the compost that matters, so hold it. The coffee grounds should be no more than about a fifth of the whole pile. A pile that is mostly coffee grounds turns sour and can actually become harmful. So a layer of grounds among plenty of dry leaves and other material, roughly 1 part grounds to several parts of everything else, is the balance. The paper coffee filter can go in too. It rots down with the rest. Within those limits, your daily coffee grounds become a steady free feeder for the compost that feeds your whole garden. And the grounds do one more honest good thing. Again, best after composting, or at least mixed properly into the soil rather than piled on top, they improve the very texture of the earth. Worked into heavy, sticky clay soil, the grounds help break it up and let water and air and roots move through it. Worked into loose sandy soil, they help it hold on to moisture instead of letting it drain straight away. And the worms genuinely love them. Grounds worked into the soil or added to a worm bin draw the earthworms and keep them breeding. And the worms in turn do more for your soil than almost anything, tunneling and enriching as they go. So as a long, slow builder of good soil texture and a lure for the worms that build it further, the grounds earn their place, worked in, not piled on, and best of all, composted first. And since people always ask what to mix the coffee grounds with, let me give you the honest truth about the most famous pairing: coffee grounds and crushed eggshells. The idea you will hear is that the grounds bring nitrogen and the eggshells bring calcium, and together they make a perfect feed. There is a grain of truth and a lot of overstatement in it, so here is the real picture. Eggshells are indeed rich in calcium, but they break down in the soil very slowly, far too slowly to feed a plant this season. So crushed shells scattered on a bed do little quickly, whatever the promise. Where the pairing genuinely helps is, again, in the compost. Grounds and crushed eggshells, both added to the compost pile, add their nitrogen and their calcium and their organic matter to the mix. And broken down together over months, they enrich the finished compost. So mix them, yes, but mix them into the compost, crushed small, and let time and the pile do the work, rather than expecting a handful of shells and grounds on the soil to feed your plants overnight. And one honest warning: eggshells and rich grounds left on the surface can draw animals nosing for the smell, so into the pile and worked in, not left sitting on top. One practical word on saving your grounds. Since you make only a little at a time and need to gather enough to matter, wet used grounds left sitting in a closed tub quickly grow mold, a fur of it, and turn nasty. So if you are collecting grounds over days to build up a useful amount, either add them to the compost as you go or dry them first. Spread the wet grounds in a thin layer on a tray and let them dry out in the sun or a warm, airy place. And once dry, they store for a long time in a jar without growing mold, ready for when you want them. A little care in the saving means you are not adding a tab of foul mold to your soil or your compost, but clean dry grounds you gathered patiently. Now I keep my promise and tell you plainly the myths. Because believing these is what hurts gardens, and the honest neighbor warns you of the harm. The first and biggest myth, that you can scatter used coffee grounds thickly straight onto the soil around your plants as a fertilizer. Do not do this. Here is why it backfires. The nitrogen in fresh grounds is not in a form your plant can use straight away. It has to be broken down first by the tiny life in the soil. And while those microbes are busy breaking the grounds down, they pull nitrogen out of the surrounding soil to do their work, which means that for a time, the grounds actually rob your plants of the very nitrogen they needed instead of feeding it to them. This is the exact opposite of what you intended. Real gardeners have piled grounds onto their beds and watched their plants turn yellow and drop their leaves, and then, not understanding, piled on more and made it worse. Ground straight onto the bed as fertilizer is not a feed. It can be a slow starving. Compost them first, or work only a thin amount into the soil. Do not heap them on raw and expect a feast. The second myth, just as widespread, that coffee grounds will make your soil acidic and so are perfect for the acid-loving plants like blueberries and azaleas. This is simply not true of used grounds, and it is worth knowing why. Yes, the coffee you drink is acidic, but the brewing pulls almost all of that acid out into your cup. The wet grounds left behind are very close to neutral, barely acidic at all, and whatever tiny effect they might have on the soil's acidity is small and short-lived and gone as they break down. So if you are dumping grounds around your blueberries, hoping to feed their love of acid soil, you are robbing yourself of coffee for nothing. The grounds will not meaningfully acidify anything. If you truly need to make soil more acidic for such plants, that takes a proper soil amendment made for the purpose, not your breakfast leftovers. And a third caution that ties the whole thing together, because it is the hidden danger in all the overuse. That same caffeine that so usefully kills your slugs does not only affect slugs. Caffeine also holds back the sprouting of seeds and the growth of young roots. So you must never work heavy coffee, grounds or strong liquid into a seed bed where you are trying to germinate seeds, or right up against tender young seedlings, because the very thing that poisons the slug will quietly stop your seeds waking and stunt your young plants. Keep the strong coffee for the established plants and the slug-ridden ground, and keep it away from the nursery bed and the seed tray. The tool that kills the pest can harm the infant plant. Aim it carefully. So there is the whole honest picture. Coffee's strongest garden power is as a slug and snail killer. Strong brewed coffee watered down, drenched on the soil and lightly sprayed on tested leaves. Its grounds are a genuine gift to the soil, but through the compost pile, no more than a fifth of it, and worked in rather than piled on, not as a raw fertilizer scattered on the bed, which starves rather than feeds. They build good soil texture in clay and sand and draw the worms that enrich it further. And the myths to drop. Grounds are not a scatter on fertilizer. They will not acidify your soil for your blueberries, and the caffeine that kills slugs will also stop your seeds and stunt your seedlings. So keep it away from the young. Get that right and your daily coffee, which you were pouring away, becomes a real and useful thing in your garden. Let me say the part that is bigger than a cup of grounds. Notice the shape of this, because it is the same shape as everything worth knowing. The loud, simple, satisfying version, just dump your coffee grounds on the garden, it's a miracle fertilizer, is the one that's spread everywhere, precisely because it is simple and satisfying and asks nothing of you. And it is wrong, and it quietly harms gardens. The true version is quieter and asks a little more. Compost it, water it down, aim it carefully, know its limits, and the true version actually works. This is the whole lesson of every cheap and simple thing. The careless, loud version that spreads is usually half a truth that does harm, and the careful, quiet version that no one shouts about is the one that serves you. There is no one selling you the careful truth, because there is no product in it, just your own leftover coffee, used with understanding. The understanding is the whole gift. A person who knows why coffee helps and how it harms gets free slug control and free soil building out of their own waste. And a person who only heard the loud myth pours their coffee on their roses and wonders why they yellowed. A person who understands that it is the caffeine in the liquid that kills the slug, and the composted grounds that feed the soil, and the raw grounds heaped on a bed that starve it, That person turns their daily waste into real help and avoids the harm the myth would have caused. That is the whole of it. The careful truth is always quieter than the loud promise, and always worth more. So here is what to do. Save your strong brewed leftover coffee. Water it down. 2 parts coffee to 1 of water for a soil drench, 1 part to 9 for a leaf spray tested first, and use it to drive out the slugs and snails that chew your garden. The strongest real thing coffee does. Put your used grounds in the compost pile, no more than a fifth of the heap, among plenty of dry leaves, and let them rot into proper compost before they ever reach your beds. Work a little into heavy clay or thin sandy soil to improve it and draw the worms. But do not scatter raw grounds thickly on your beds as fertilizer, for they will steal nitrogen before they give it. Do not trust them to acidify soil for your blueberries, for the used grounds are nearly neutral. And keep the strong coffee well away from your seed beds and tender seedlings, because the caffeine that kills the slug will also stop the seed. Then tell me below, where do you garden? What eats your plants at night? And have you a slug and snail problem the coffee might answer? Tell me what you grow, and whether you would try the coffee drench on them. I read every one. Until then, water the coffee down for the slugs, compost the grounds for the soil, keep both away from your seeds, and remember that the quiet, careful truth is always worth more than the loud, simple promise.